Hey everybody, welcome to the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig, and I'm doing a special one this week in regards to Podfest, diving a little deeper into it because my good friend Madeline over at the Crematorium podcast, after our interview this past week, had said that she was very interested in knowing a little bit more about the in-depth aspect of Podfest, what it's all about, what she could get from it, what some of my other audience could get from it, and basically just kind of do a deeper dive on it. So here we go. Probably be about 20-25 minutes for this, but I'll try to touch on as much as I can as possible here for you and give you kind of a deeper dive on the whole thing. So origins. I was going to Creator Fest in Orlando last August when I ran into Chris Kremitzos, the founder of Podfest, and he encouraged me to come in January. He knew that I had a podcast that was an advertising extension of what I do here, you know, the royalty-free music that I produce and everything, and encouraged me for a number of reasons: the networking ability to getting the music into other people's hands, and also the simple fact that I wanted to do this podcast going forward this year with tools and technology that are going to make it easier and also a lot less painful in regards to the post-production and everything else. So one thing that was encouraging when I talked to him back in August was there's a lot of new technology out there that makes this really, really easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it makes it easier to produce a high-quality show on the regular without having to dive in and get too crazy with the minutia of post-production and editing and everything else. So that said, let's just dive into it. I'll talk to you about the schedule and how it evolved, how I got involved with it, and everything else. So I ended up coming in on Wednesday. I wanted to get the early registration, get situated in the hotel room so that I could spend Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and potentially Sunday as the goodbye day, which was basically just a short morning before everybody checked out of the hotel, to, you know, basically get situated and make sure I'm in there before the big throngs and crowds show up. So I opted for the Creator Pass, and that allotted me this ability. It gave me the ability to come in early and do an early registration on Wednesday. So that's what I did. I came in, I did the registration here between 5 and 7:30, and it was painless. You know, it was literally, I was at that counter for 15 minutes at most. And immediately following my registration, I went to a special pre-opening session about how to get the best out of your experience at Podfest. Now, understanding that with the Wednesday, this was like a 5-day event. So there's a lot going on. You can't possibly hit everything. And, you know, I was already feeling overwhelmed walking into it. But I knew that there was some sessions that would give me an idea of how to navigate things and you know, kickoffs and everything else. So I attended that. It was a good 1,000-foot understanding on what was coming up. There's an unofficial meet and greet. People were kind of milling about and exchanging information and stuff, and I partook a little bit in that. There was also an ambassador's private party, which I'm assuming has to do with Chris and some of the founding members of Podfest and them probably just getting together and doing kind of a kickoff party before the whole thing kicks off. So obviously I wasn't a part of that. So kind of took it easy Wednesday night and got an idea of the landscape, got myself familiarized with the location and where the various rooms were and everything so I could hit the ground running on Thursday. So Thursday morning, super early registration for people that either were late arrivals or if they were coming in on Thursday as opposed to early like I did on Wednesday. And then the education track started right away. And there was 4 or 5 different ones. There was like a wild card, author track. There's also, on that first day, Thursday, it had a limited education track because it wasn't the main day. The main 2 days were Friday and Saturday. So it had this, there were a couple things here I wasn't even able to attend. I did the business track and the wild card because I wasn't coming to the event as an author. And the the Pecha Kucha talks, I'm not even sure what that was. I think it's a specific brand that was promoting something. But again, I can't speak to the whole event because some of the things I didn't attend, so I don't want to speculate. But I can only say that, it's something that was very specialized for a different subset of the attendees. And then the expo actually opened up that day, and that had a ton of really good vendors in it. I think, is the vendors on the main page here? Let's see. That's the schedule, probably on the home page. So I'm going to jump off this for a second and show you the main page, if it'll load. Okay, here we go. And let's see. The venue is there. Let's see. Yeah, so sponsors there. Big guys, the ones you would think of, Shure Mics, Adobe Podcast, some publishing stuff here, some other streaming platforms and whatnot. So they were all representative in the actual expo, and they had representatives there to tell you what the features were of the various stuff, and what they could offer you and everything else. Typical expo. A lot of decent people in there. A lot of people you could connect with and get those discovery calls and understand how to use it and get like the 14-day trial periods, that kind of thing. So in a lot of cases, people coming to this already had an established relationship with some kind of platform that helps them publish what they do. However, there's a number of first-time event attendees. So for those folks, honestly, any one of those vendors would be ideal because now, they've not even done word one for a podcast yet. So they're looking to set up their stuff from the ground zero and everything else. So great to have that stuff there for people that are starting from scratch. And just a 1,000-foot overview of this whole thing so far. Incredibly welcoming environment. And I say that with honest and 100% sincerity. You can go to these things sometimes, depending upon what the discipline is that you're going to learn more about. And some people can attend it or be presenters or a combination of both that have an air of seniority and superiority and stuff. And sometimes you feel like some of your questions are too routine or too simple for the event, and you kind of get this feeling of not belonging, or this feeling of hesitation about asking and probing and whatnot. None of those feelings or none of that positioning existed at Podfest. There's no question you could ask that was too routine or mundane that wouldn't be answered, because people are literally looking to micro understand the various minutia associated with making this successful. So, and just the podcaster environment in general and the community in general seems to be highly supportive, because it is a very collaborative environment. People need guests. People need subject matter to talk about. People need to promote one another and lift each other up. And I think it's just par for the course with this industry. And I applaud Chris and his team, and by extension, all the attendees and the speakers in kind at this event. It was really, really supportive and really, really fun. So just bear that in mind, overarching everything I talk about here. They also had an influencer meet and greet. It was running a little late. I was sitting there waiting to go in, and I would have had access to it and be able to go in, but I hadn't eaten. And again, full disclosure, I was on the tail end of a weekend prior with 3 other family members that managed to get sick, and I somehow dodged it. I still had a little bit of a stuffy head and was trying to keep my head clear. So a lot of my experience with this first round at Podfest was tentative at best, because I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want to fatigue myself. I really didn't want to come down with something, but I also wanted to engage as much as possible. So I opted not to go to that, but it was a it was free with my creator pass to get in there. First come, first serve. They were running a little late, and I just decided, I'll try it the next one, and no big deal for me. So that pretty much ended my Thursday. Friday is when the whole main track, Friday, Saturday, of the education process kicks off. Like full on, all attendees are able to attend those 2 days, no matter what level. So that's like really like those 2 days are the core of the event. And, they had a kickoff welcoming, and then they basically did some keynotes, and then boom, expo hall's open and all the education tracks are open. I focused on a number of them. I didn't really go beginner because, let's be honest, I've been doing this for a year and a half. Not always the greatest, but I've been learning along the way. So I know enough to be able to capture this, to do the editing on my own, to publish it on my own. So a lot of that was like 101 classwork stuff, like how to even start, what to get, your basic equipment, blah, blah, blah. The audience growth track was great. Monetization was great. The video podcasting was great. I went into Wildcard because there were a couple of unique like 30, 45 minute display, like expos in there, not expos. There were speakers in there that talked about a specific kind of like surgical aspect of podcasting that resonated with me. And again, all this was in the app, but now, it's post event. So a lot of that stuff is just not available anymore. But during the event, you could actually scroll through and be like, okay, what's in the beginner track between 10 and 4:45 today? And you'd look through there, and then you'd select what you want from the app. And the app, by the way, was named Huva, and really cool because you're like basically walking around either on an iPad or with your phone and deciding what your schedule is for the day based on everything that's in there. And you could do it in advance too, because by Wednesday night, Thursday, that all that stuff was in there. And I think they may have shifted some things around during the event, but for the most part, that was already populated. So when you got to the event, you were able to put in what you needed to, and you could put it to a calendar in your phone, and it would even tell you in the app if you're double booking a session or whatever, which is great because I'm like, oh, this looks good. Oh, this looks good. Oh, shoot, that's a conflict. Well, which one do I want to go more importantly? And which one am I going to deal with as part of the replay that I could get into in a little bit. But Friday was great. I was able to get into a bunch of those different tracks and learn about a bunch of different things. Again, I didn't stay with one track all day. You very well could have. And there was enough content to stay in any one of those tracks and just do that, which is ultimately why I ended up prepaying for my access next year under Creator Pass. And by doing that in advance, you get a discount, and you also get the replays once the videos are available, because most of the sessions got filmed, which is fantastic. But again, it's just after the event. I don't think they anticipated having those replays available until probably sometime at the end of February. So there's some post associated with getting those up online and hosting them somewhere. But it'll be great because there's some of the sessions I wasn't able to make, and being able to go back in time and watch some of those, or even watch the ones that I liked and remind myself some of the great information that was there, and execute on that information if I didn't capture it properly with note taking, because it is a rapid fire. I mean, one thing you got to remember about these expos and these events is it's a lot of information, and it can get overwhelming. So you have to pace yourself. A lot of people go into these things thinking, oh, I got to maximize everything I'm doing here. I'm spending this money. I'm going to be in this hotel. I'm spending, hundreds, if not, a couple $1,000s to come to this thing. I got to get everything I can get out of it. Well, my advice at any level, if it's a multi-day event and they have the option of you going back and actually paying a few extra bucks to get the videos that are available of the entire event after the fact, do it. It's worth every penny. And if you're really looking to educate yourself from really well educated people in this field, or whatever field of the thing that you're going to, I highly recommend that. Do it. Jump in it and pay the extra bucks and just get into it. So Friday was great. I checked out the expo hall a little bit again. I went on the tracks, got through all that. There was a private social that I wasn't privy to, and then there was a trivia thing from like 6 to 7:30, and then there was a podcast Hall of Fame from 7 to 9 that you needed a separate special ticket to attend, which I did not have the opportunity to go to. And but I did get to go to the private social. The private social, they had a couple of open spaces for, and it was kind of neat because there was a couple of people that I had met previously that ended up going up to it, and it was like on the 10th floor with a special suite. It was the suite for, I guess, the ambassadors. And Chris gave a speech in there and basically was like, hey, this is a chance for you to talk to some people in a more intimate environment, blah, blah, blah. Thanks everybody for coming. And Chris is a class act. He just loves to give back to community, and he's just so passionate about Podfest and podcasting in general. I am just tickled pink that I met this dude. He's really on point. So, but that was fun to do. That was fun to meet some of those people and chit chat. And like I said, there was an induction ceremony after that, and I didn't have a ticket for that, so I kind of just called it a day. Saturday, again, registration opened a little bit later than the first day, and then the tracks opened a little bit later as well, with the anticipation that there was some later evenings that people had already attended. And again, similar tracks on Saturday as well, because again, Friday, Saturday, it's the core of the event. Same time frame, 10 to 4, and then they had the closing keynotes and a closing party that night. And finally, on Saturday, they had a gratitude ceremony, which the closing party and the gratitude ceremony I had to skip. I was feeling by mid to late day Saturday a bit more physically fatigued than I cared to have, because again, like I said, I was fighting a little bit of a cold, and I wanted to make sure I didn't slip down that path and get sick and everything. So I just, knowing that I purchased the replay after the whole event, I was like, there's no reason for me to push it here. And I got a lot of value out of what I was able to attend and what I chose to attend in the whole event. And I gotta say, it was jam-packed with stuff. And people were absolutely overwhelmingly generous with their advice, with sharing process, with sharing numbers. People talking about monetization and everything. People were very, very disclosive about that. Very disclosive about consistency. Consistency seems to be the mantra for me in 2025. Not only for personal content, but also for my podcast, also for consistency in producing music and getting, following through on the commitments that I'm making publicly about hitting 1,000 and beyond. I mean, it just reinforced the fact that, yeah, I know, it's almost over, buddy. Cats give me a hard time. It just reinforced for me the reality that you're going to be a content creator. You have to be consistent about it, and you have to regularly post and publish and promote content in order to gain and build an audience and build a community. And that's really what my attendance at this thing this January was all about. It was about learning how to be that person and learning how to do that better. So anybody that's got a podcast or uses a podcast like myself as an extension of something else that they do, or any nuanced or thing around any of that, I highly recommend. Even if you go to a fraction of this event at a lesser amount, it's well worth every penny, because the value you get out of it is well exceeds the price tag of attendance at this thing. Absolutely. In addition to that, I just wanted to add that the hotel, if you booked it far enough advance, they had special discount codes for the hotel. Hotel was actually just outside of SeaWorld. You could literally, from my window, I could literally see SeaWorld and the entire park. It was, and their parking lot. It was like right there. So I believe the Renaissance Orlando at SeaWorld is specifically for that. And we managed to get a price point that was significantly discounted from what their general nightly rates would be, which is great. So that was good, but you'd have to do that far enough in advance. Obviously, they had a limited block, and, well, maybe not obvious to everybody, but they had a limited block of hotel rooms that they could offer at that price point. So I took advantage of it, knowing that I was going back in August. So I would say if you're 4 or 5 months out and you're booking it and you want to come to something like this, it's a lot easier to get on that pipeline and get a discounted rate as opposed to last minute, because there's a good chance that you're not going to and you couldn't be on site, which would mean that you'd have to come every day. And I think the parking was like $38 a day, something like that, without the discount. With the discount, it was like, actually the parking on site was half, which was fantastic, because $30-something a day to park at a hotel in an open parking lot was insane. It's a lot of money, but I guess, I mean, you're in Orlando, where are you going to park, you know? So it is the nature of going into an event or to an expo. You kind of at the mercy of the venue and what their price points are. So kudos to Chris for negotiating a discounted rate for everybody that took the time to do this in advance and everything. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I can't speak highly enough about this event. It was really fun and I learned a lot. I still have a ton of notes I've got to get back through. I've got a cool little book that I had brought with me and jotted down a bunch of stuff in and have been executing on that as much as I can. But I had to just sit for a few days and just let the information suck in, because it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense, and it was intense, but absolutely worth every amount of time that I had. So thanks for checking it out.